The invisible noise. You wake up feeling heavy, not because of a lack of sleep or a physical ache, but because something deeper feels off. The day hasn't even begun, yet there's already a low hum of pressure in the background, a tension you can't name, a tightness in your chest that whispers, you're already behind. You check your phone, notifications, headlines, people performing happiness in curated stories. And just like that, your mind kicks into gear, comparing, planning, doubting, reacting. But none of it feels intentional. You're not choosing to think. The thoughts are thinking you. This is the noise that no one talks about. Not the honking horns or loud conversations, but the constant stream of inner commentary. Am I good enough? Did I say something wrong? What if they don't like me? What happens if I fail? It's subtle, it's invisible, but it's relentless. And over time, this mental background becomes the atmosphere of your life. You think it's you, but it's not. That voice, that anxious tension, that nagging feeling of not quite there yet, that's the small self. It hides behind roles, masks, and mental noise, convincing you that this is who you are, that you must listen to it, obey it, suffer for it. But what if that's the first illusion? What if the constant commentary is just an echo, not your essence? Because the suffering didn't come from the world. It came from believing in the noise, identifying with it, letting it name you. And that's where the journey begins. Not by adding more, but by seeing through the one thing you've never questioned, the identity your mind created for you. So, where did this small self arise, and why has it stayed so long? Before we can step beyond it, we must watch it being born inside us. The birth of the small self. Every child enters the world as raw awareness. Eyes wide, senses open, no story yet written. Soon names are given, praise is offered, corrections arrive. The mind weaves these inputs into a map. I am John, I am clever, I am clumsy, I am loved when I smile, I am scolded when I cry. Each label is a thread. Together they braid into a costume called me. The process is natural, even necessary. Without a rough outline, we could not speak, learn, or cross the street. Yet what starts as a helpful sketch gradually hardens into a mask. Experiences that hurt are stored as warnings. Moments that please are clutched like trophies. The mind, ever vigilant, adds walls and mirrors, trying to predict the next hit of praise or dodge the next sting of pain. Trauma accelerates construction. A harsh word from a parent, laughter of classmates, a heartbreak. Each carves graffiti on the wet cement of identity. The small self vows to protect you, but its methods rely on control. Control of perception, of emotion, of how others see you. It whispers rules. Never be too loud. Always be the best. Hide your tears. With each rule, the prison gains another bar. Culture reinforces the architecture. Ads insist you are incomplete. Social media trades authenticity for applause. Schools reward compliance over insight. The result is a crowded interior filled with borrowed slogans and secondhand dreams. Original, spacious awareness is still there, but muffled under layers of conditioning. Observe the progression. Sensation becomes memory. Memory becomes belief. Belief becomes identity. Identity becomes suffering whenever reality refuses to match the script. That mismatch happens daily. Thus, the small self must constantly rewrite the story or blame someone for the plot twist. Exhaustion is inevitable, yet the most tragic line in the play is this: you forget it is only a play. You forget you are the author, not the character, so the character's fears feel like your own. Conditioning rarely shouts, it whispers. It suggests the right clothes to wear, the safe opinions to hold, the acceptable dreams to chase. Say yes often enough and the whispers blend into thought, indistinguishable from your own voice. That is how the small self secures loyalty without force. Awakening starts when you see the mask as mask and ask, who is speaking and who is listening? The trap of mental identification. Imagine sitting in a theater where a single actor plays every part. Hero, villain, narrator, chorus, never leaving the stage. That actor is your mind, and the script is relentless. Thoughts arise like spotlight cues: jealousy, nostalgia, worry, craving. Each swears it is urgent. Each demands the whole stage. You, the audience, forget to sit back. You leap into the drama, believing every costume change is a change of self. This fusion, observer welded to thought, is identification. It feels normal because it began in childhood, but its consequences run deep. If a friend cancels dinner, the mind announces they don't value you, and the body produces hurt. If a colleague receives praise, the mind observes you're falling behind, and the heart flutters with envy. The event is neutral. The commentary paints it with suffering, and then sells that pain as truth. Neurologists call the commentary the default mode network. Mystics call it ego. Whatever the name, its job is narrative maintenance. It edits memories to fit a heroic storyline or a victim's lament. It projects futures where it finally wins approval or proves others wrong. Attempt to rest and the network panics. No plot, no purpose, no self. So it generates noise, even if that noise is self-loathing, because any story feels safer than silence. Notice the tactics: comparison, prediction, rehearsal, replay. They masquerade as problem-solving, yet most problems they invent. Worst-case scenarios masquerade as prudence. Imaginary conversations masquerade as preparation. Identification turns these hallucinations into felt reality. Adrenal glands fire as though fantasies were fact. Over time, the stress chemistry etches grooves in the nervous system, making anxiety the baseline flavor of existence. You might think the answer is positive thinking, swapping dark stories for bright ones, but that merely changes costumes. Identification remains, and with it the seed of future pain. True freedom lies not in better stories, but in seeing that you are not the storyteller. You are the stage, the silent expanse beneath every soliloquy. How to see this? Start with micro moments. The half second before a reactive email is sent. The breath between pulse and word. Catch a thought mid-sentence and label it. Worry, judgment, memory. Naming restores distance. Distance reveals choice. Choice cracks the illusion. When gaps appear, an unfamiliar piece seeps through. It is the original awareness, patient and bright, waiting behind the curtain. Meeting that awareness invites a deeper question. If thoughts can be watched, what then is the watcher? But before we disarm the factory, we have to understand its assembly line, step by step. How the mind manufactures suffering. Suffering is not an accident. It is produced. The mind runs a workshop with three main machines: resistance, projection, and attachment. Each machine has gears of thought and belts of emotion, all powered by identification. Let's tour the floor. 1. Resistance, the fight against what is. A traffic jam appears. Instantly the mind declares, this shouldn't be happening. The gap between reality and the story of how reality ought to be ignites frustration. Notice, the cars did nothing personal. Only the thought shouldn't sharpens the tension. Resistance can masquerade as ambition, pushing to improve circumstances, but when it is fueled by refusal to accept the present, effort carries hidden anguish. 2. Projection, the movie on tomorrow's screen. The future is a blank canvas. The mind splashes fear onto it. Layoffs, illness, betrayal, aging. These images trigger today's cortisol, even though they exist nowhere but imagination. Projection is evolutionary. Anticipation once saved our ancestors, but in an information age it multiplies exponentially, forecasting disasters faster than the nervous system can recover. The body pays interest on debts that may never come due. 3. Attachment, the glue of identity. Pleasant experiences arise, the mind clings. Keep this feeling, this status, this relationship, this youth. Inevitably change arrives, and clinging translates to grief. Attachment can also fuse to opinions. I am right. When evidence threatens the stance, the pain of possible wrongness feels like death to the small self. Thus, arguments escalate beyond reason. They defend identity, not ideas. The machines do not operate in isolation. They synchronize. You resist a colleague's criticism. project catastrophic consequences for your career, and attached to the belief that you must be universally admired. One conversation, and the factory roars at full capacity. Now, see how subtle the process is. The mind convinces you that resistance equals control, projection equals preparedness, attachment equals loyalty. It frames suffering as virtue. Yet examine closely and you find the common denominator: time. Resistance regrets the past or rejects the present. Projection transmits fear into the future. Attachment dreads future loss or clutches past pleasure. Time, for the small self, is leverage. Keep consciousness juggling yesterdays and tomorrows, and it never stands still long enough to notice the prison walls. But stand still, truly still, and the machines hiss to a halt. In the hush, you glimpse something radical. Pain dissolves when the narrative pauses. The jam is just cars, the future is blank. The pleasure was a moment, not a mandate. Freedom is simply reality minus story. This realization is not an intellectual stunt. It is experiential. You feel space widen inside your chest, as though the ribcage unscrewed. Thoughts still pass by, but they're airborne, not anchors. It is the beginning of genuine inner peace. The next step is to deepen this taste, to live from the space rather than the storyline. That requires meeting the voice of identity with the medicine of presence and discovering firsthand that the voice is not you. The illusion of identity. You are not that voice. If suffering fades when the narrative pauses, the obvious question arises: who remains to notice the fading? That witness, silent, lucid, unchanged by each storyline, is your essential nature. The small self is loud but ephemeral. The witness is quiet yet constant. Picture clouds racing across a summer sky. Some are dark with storm, others light as lace, but none stain the blue. Thoughts are clouds. Awareness is sky. Identity becomes painful only when sky forgets itself and claims to be a cloud, panicking at evaporation, clashing with neighbors, begging the wind for permanence. To remember the sky, we must challenge the reflex that glues awareness to thought. A simple experiment. Close your eyes, wait for the next sentence in your head, and before it finishes, ask, who hears this? You will not find a thinker separate from the thought, only awareness perceiving both question and echo. That gap, brief but vivid, is presence. Presence feels ordinary at first. No fireworks, no halo. Precisely because it is ever available, the mind dismisses it as unremarkable. Yet in presence you discover qualities unmatched by any achievement. Uncaused peace, unprovoked joy, compassion that does not need a reason. They bloom naturally when the story sleeps. The ego protests. Without me you will be lazy, unsafe, unloved. Notice how the protest uses fear, a final trick to maintain control. But fear itself is a cloud. Watch it float and vanish, and behind it the sky remains. This is not self-improvement. Nothing needs polishing. It is self-recognition, seeing what has never been absent. Spiritual traditions name it soul, emptiness, Atman, Christ within. Neuroscience, cautiously poetic, calls it meta-awareness. Labels differ, experience converges. Why does realizing this matter? Because once you glimpse that thoughts do not define you, the machines of suffering lose fuel. Resistance eases. The present no longer threatens identity. Projection calms. The future cannot steal who you are. Attachment softens. Enjoyment is free to flow without chains. From this vantage, life's challenges still arise. Loss, illness, injustice, but they touch only the surface waves. The depths stay clear. Action grows wiser because it is guided by clarity, not panic, by compassion, not scarcity. You respond to life rather than react from a conditioned script. The invitation now is to stabilize the glimpse, to linger in the sky until clouds know they are welcome to pass. The most direct gateway is silence, not as absence, but as a vibrant field in which every sound is a visitor. In its hush, the next phase of freedom ripens. The practice of abiding awareness that neither clings to pleasure nor recoils from pain, but simply shines. The silence that sets you free. Silence is often misunderstood as emptiness, absence, or boredom. In truth, it is saturated with life. Think of a mountain meadow at dawn, birds not yet singing, wind still, air crystalline. The stillness is pregnant with potential. Every blade of grass vibrates with quiet vitality. Inner silence is the same, an alert, shimmering openness. To taste it, begin with breath. Sit upright, let shoulders soften, and notice inhalation entering cool, exhalation leaving warm. Do not lengthen or judge, only feel. When thoughts intrude, greet them as passing travelers. No hospitality required, yet no hostility either. They arrive, bow, depart. Between departures and arrivals stretches a corridor of hush. Rest there. Next, engage the senses one by one. Listen to distant traffic, a ticking clock, your own pulse. As each sound fades, notice the backdrop against which it was heard. That backdrop is silence. Likewise with sight. Gaze at a candle flame, then close eyes. The afterimage floats in darkness, revealing the screen of awareness beneath vision. Practiced daily, these micro-meditations lengthen the gaps between thoughts. Gaps merge into spacious intervals where mind machinery idles. The body registers the shift. Heart rate slows, cortisol drops, immune markers rise. Neuroscientists observe increased alpha and gamma oscillations, signatures of relaxed clarity. Yet the true reward is existential, not clinical. In silence, you encounter yourself unadorned. Nothing to perform, defend, or fix. The small self falls mute, unsure how to posture without narrative. What remains is presence, a wordless recognition of being. Importantly, silence is portable. Carry it into meetings, phone calls, escalators, arguments. Insert a single conscious breath before replying, and watch dialogue transform. When others unleash stormy emotion, your quiet becomes a harbor. They may not name it, but they will feel it. Silence is also communal. Shared quiet in meditation halls, forests, or candlelit rooms bonds people faster than conversation. Eyes meet, and without words a message passes. I see you beyond your story. Stillness does not erase speech, it refines it. Words issued from silence land softer, cut truer. Decisions made there align with intuition rather than impulse. It is here that real courage flowers, because nothing true within you needs noise for validation. This is the practice that frees, not escaping life's noise but discovering the unshakable quiet at the core of consciousness. Abide there, and the next chapter, living beyond the small self, unfolds naturally. Beyond the small self, everyday freedom. Freedom is often depicted as dramatic, quitting a job, selling possessions, moving to the mountains. Yet the most radical liberation may look ordinary. Brewing tea without hurry, listening fully to a child's story, walking without headphones. When the small self no longer dictates, life regains simple grandeur. Begin the morning without reaching for glass rectangles. Let light arrive through curtains and greet skin before screens. Notice how thoughts rush in for attention. Greet them kindly, then let them wait. You choose the first word of the day. Commute as pilgrimage. Instead of cursing red lights, feel the steering wheel's texture. Watch sunlight ripple across windshields. Each sensory detail anchors you in presence. The ego finds little drama in a traffic pattern. Awareness, however, finds subtle miracles there. At work, practice a 3-breath pause before answering emails. The first breath feels, the second clarifies intention, the third delivers response. This tiny ritual rewires reactivity into responsiveness. Colleagues notice calm precision. They may call it confidence, but you know it is spaciousness. Conflict still arises, but perspective shifts. When criticism lands, you hear content without the sting of personal insult. There is no small self to defend. You correct mistakes swiftly, unaffected by shame. When praise comes, gratitude flows, but identity remains uninflated. Success is weather, pleasant, transient. Pleasure also transforms. Eating becomes communion with flavor, not escape. Music becomes landscape, not wallpaper. Because awareness is not chasing fulfillment, Fulfillment shows up everywhere. Cracks in sidewalk, laughter in queue, silence between raindrops. Relationships deepen. Presence listens beyond words, sensing fears behind sarcasm. Hopes beneath compassion rises naturally. It is easier to forgive clouds when you remember they are made of sky. Boundaries become clean. Saying no from clarity feels kind, not cruel. Decision-making simplifies. The question is no longer, what preserves my image, but what serves life? Sometimes that means bold action, sometimes patient waiting. Either way, inner stillness remains. None of this requires special robes or years in a cave. It requires remembering moment after moment that you are the witness and not the tale. Forgetting will happen. Remembering takes one breath. Finally, freedom feeds freedom. Your calm presence grants others silent permission to drop their masks. A room relaxes. A family laughs more. Waves of quiet spread outward, subtle yet unstoppable, like dawn across a restless sea. Invitation to presence. Close your eyes. Feel the body's weight, the whisper of breath. In this simple noticing, you stand at the doorway of peace. Nothing to earn, fix, or chase. The small self may knock, but you need not answer. Carry this quiet into the next task, conversation, heartbeat. Let it color seeing and soften speech. Remember, the world you touch is shaped by the presence you bring. Suffering ends where identification ends. Step through and live from the boundless space you truly are. Again and again. Choose it, now.